Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Irvin, also known as Man. Let's just get into it. We're going to talk about DNS today and how it works in a business type of environment with computers and servers and all kinds of things related to the DNS. Now, this also expands into the internet as well, in case you didn't know. All right, before we begin, please do me a favor in the comment below. Say hi, hello, or present, sort of like in the classroom, just to for me to get a good idea of how many people are interested in this type of content. Now, there will be a help desk video too. We have almost 50 tickets waiting for us. And if you're also interested in that, please leave a comment so that way I can try to release that as soon as possible. Right now I'm recording this one because it's promised. It's in order for what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks. All right. So in order for me to explain this properly, I have to start from the very top of what's the most familiar thing. So let me pull up google.com. This is on just the Windows 10 machine. I'm just going to type in google.com. I now may get an error here. Well, maybe not, because the system time here is off. Anyways, google.com. So instead of remembering what the IP address is for google.com, I can just type in google.com. And when it comes to the internet and the networking, this is what DNS is used for. DNS lets you just remember google.com instead of having to remember the IP address of Google server. So if I go to CMD, right, command line, and we ping google.com, so just to see, ping google.com, we get an IP address for google.com. This is where it's located. Well, this can also change randomly depending on where the server is. It doesn't matter. But again, it doesn't matter because we don't have to remember or find out what the IP address is for google.com. So if I take this, Control C, right, I'm going to copy it. Okay, it's a virtual machine, so it's not easily let me copy it from CMD. That's okay. We're going to type it in up here. So instead of having to type in the IP address to reach Google's website, we can just type in google.com, right? So just to show you here, let's see, what was the IP address again? 142.250, 142, come on, 142.50.250.68.142. So we can just type in HTTPS for Hypertext Transfer Protocol because it's a website. And then we're going to hit enter. And here it is. It takes us to google.com. It's just it doesn't like it because this is what we're doing. We're not using the DNS name for it. But see, it gets you to the google.com. So we don't have to worry about that. We can just remember what the google.com, and the DNS handles that for us. We don't have to worry about the IP addresses. All right. So how does my computer know where the DNS server is for google.com? So another entity or another server somewhere has to provide this information to me where google.com is. And of course there is. So if I do ipconfig/all on my computer, we can see a search of DNS suffixes. In this case, we've got newdomain.com. So this is for our server that we've created, which we will tie everything into and how DNS relates to that. But in this case, we have attlocal.net. So this is a DNS server that provided me information, forwarding information of google.com, right? So attlocal.net is aware constantly, and it's refreshed where google.com is when it comes to its IP address, so that my computer doesn't have to remember it, or I don't have to remember it. I can just type in google.com. So this handling of google.com, forwarding to the correct server, is done by attlocal.net. And this can be also changed. You can change your DNS server in your network adapter settings. You can change that too. For example, let's see what Google DNS servers are, right? And it's going to tell you right now, if I change this for IP version 4 and forward it to this custom DNS, it will forward it to that. And you can do this. You would only do this if you're having problems with DNS and you can't figure it out. But if you go to your adapter settings for your network adapter, change adapter options here, double click on your Ethernet the device, or it could be just your Wi-Fi device. And if you go to properties here and then go to, for example, Internet Protocol version 4, TCP IP over IP, you can specifically set up the DNS server location. You can see that I've done this for the server to make my server work on the virtual machine, but in here you can specify whatever the Google is, and in this case it would be 888, for example, like this one. So if I go to copy here, well, I can just remember what it is, right? So I can just type in preferred DNS or alternative DNS and just change this to all 8s, right? So if I go through here and just delete all of this and set up all 8s, here we go. I'm trying to tab over, but it keeps going down. So if I set this up to all 8s and change the, for example, alternative to 8844, so just like this, get out of here, window. So the other one was 8, and then, come on, I was trying to tab over. This thing is finicky. So I have to click in each box. Anyways, so if I specify, use this as preferred DNS and alternative DNS server, this is basically telling my computer use these servers for internet only to help me get routed to the other websites. So whether it's google.com, yahoo.com, youtube.com, these DNS servers that are hosted by Google will route me, send me to those appropriate web addresses. So that way I don't have to remember or find out what the IP address for those. The same type of system happens for local servers for your company that you're working for. So you have to set this up, computer names that you create for your local network. The same thing has to be done. And in my case, I have a DNS server that's set up to do that. And you've already seen where the location of it is. And let's pull it up again. CMD ipconfig /all. And that is hosted and done by newdomain.com. So we're going to switch over to the server to see what this is. Here we go. So we pull up our administrative tools, find DNS, and here is our DNS. And what does it do? Well, it's doing exactly what I just told you about. So let me explain this so it's easy to understand. Well, I'm going to open up Active Directory here, Active Directory users and computers. If you watched my previous videos, and if you haven't, I highly suggest that you do, especially the one on AD, we can see that we have some computers that we have created and added to our domain. First one, let's concentrate just on this one here where it says work-0002. This is our computer that was added to our domain, and you can see its extension. So it's part of our new domain, meaning it's part of our local domain, a local network. Well, we need to have a way to reach work-02, just like this on our network. So if I just open up Explorer and do a //, meaning we're going to use a network path to reach it, and type in work-0002. And if we want to see $sign into it, so see $sign meaning we're trying to reach a shared network location. In this case, we're going to try to see $sign into this computer as if it was like a back door into this computer so we can look at the file system. So if we hit that, we can have direct access to it. This wouldn't be possible. This wouldn't be possible if the DNS server wasn't set up correctly. so we don't have to figure out what the IP address is here. Otherwise, we would have to put in the IP address here instead of just typing in the name of the computer. So let's go back to our computer, and here it is. We still have the command line popped up for work 002, and here it is, work 002. This is the computer name that we just used, and we didn't have to figure out what the IP address is for that. We were just able to type it in, and we were able to reach it on our local network. If DNS didn't work, this is what we would have to do. We would have to type in the IP address of this computer so we can reach it. Now imagine if there are 1,000 computers in your company. Do you really want to go through and trying to figure out which one it is? No, this is what DNS is for. So just to show you here, we're going to type in 192.168. What was it, 0.100.5.100.5. So this is, if DNS is broken on your network, on your work network, this is how you would reach these computers. So you hit enter, and it gives you the same result, except this time you use the IP address instead of the computer name. Okay, so the same thing is if you're trying to RDP, meaning using remote desktop protocol to reach these computers, I can just type in work dash 0002, click connect, and as long as remote connection is enabled on that computer and it's allowed to connect, it will pop up. Otherwise, I would have to use the IP address like this, and it would let me reach the same computer. But I think our remote desktop is disabled, so that's okay. So how is this working inside of AD? Well, the AD part of it basically just handles, well, which computer name do we want to use? And when it comes to forwarding to the correct IP address that we've just talked about, this is done by DNS, and it's done in forwarding lookup zones, right? So here it is. We expand this folder and we select new domain. We can see that there is an A record for our work 0002 computer. And we're going to talk about this. But we can see that work 0002 right here, just look at it, it's forwarded to this IP address. And it says 192.168.100.5, which we've just used, right? So if I go to properties of it, you can see that's exactly what's going on here. And this is called an A record, right? So what is an A record? It's just basically a way of basically forwarding this. It's a simple way of handling the DNS data forwarding. That's what that is. And the same thing is done for websites like google.com, yahoo.com. Even if you create your own website, let's say you're creating your own website and you have a web server, you have to go to your DNS provider. So let's say you have, I don't know, hosting somewhere else for your domain name. So let's say you've created a new website called mynewwebsite.com. Well, you have to reserve that name from a domain provider. You know how you have to pay a monthly fee to have that name? That provider will give you the settings where you can add an A record to forward to your server's IP address, right? In this case, this is an example of just on the network, but if it was a website, this is what you would do. And you can manually add them, and normally you would be doing this in case you're adding, for example, a printer or something like that, and you want to make sure that there is an A record of it, then you would have to do this manually. Otherwise, this is done automatically for computers that are joined to the Active Directory. This is automatically done in here for computers that are joined to the Active Directory. So if I join a new computer, create a new host name in here, and this will automatically be forwarded inside of the DNS server for that. And that's fine. and that's fine. But if you're, for example, adding a printer, let me see, do I have print server installed on here? I may not have print server installed in here. Okay, I don't have a print server installed. Well, print management, here it is. So if I go to the print server here and add a new printer, right? Add a new printer in here. I would have to create an A record for that. So if I go to here and add a new network printer, in order to make it work properly, I would have to ensure that there is an A record for it. So let's create a new a new A record, I should say. So this would normally be done manually if you're, for example, adding like a new printer, a new network printer that has like a static IP address, which is like maybe hard coded into the printer itself. And that's fine. So we're going to pretend that we're going to do this for a printer. So we're going to type in, I don't know, we're going to call it new network. We're just going to call it network printer. Make sure there are no spaces whenever. So you can't have like this. You can't have a space. Matter of fact, I'll show you it's not going to work. But we're going to pretend like this printer has a new IP address. So basically what you would do is you would go to that printer. You will go to that printer and print out a status page for that printer to see what configurations are for it, and that would tell you what the IP address is. So if it's a hard-coded IP address for that printer, and you have no choice but to point this this record to that IP address, then you have to find out what the static IP address that's on the printer itself. So just like 192.168.100. I'm going to stay within the same IP range that we have, and I'm going to just say 25 and leave create associated pointer record, PTR record. Basically, this is what we're creating. I'll leave that checked. I'm going to click add, and of course it's not going to work because remember we have a space in here. We can't have a space in here for the name. We're going to click add, and there it is. The host record for network printer has been created successfully. All right, so now we can point to this network printer. We don't have to remember that this printer name is 192.168.100.25. All right, so what else can we talk about? So just to kind of reiterate, now we know what the point of DNS is. We don't have to remember IP addresses. We can just use computer names. This is why we have these A records that are put inside of the DNS server that forwards these things. But we can also look at what the reverse lookup is, and it's right here. So what we're dealing here with is forward lookup zones. And by the way, before we hit the reverse lookup zones, if you click on this new domain and there are thousands of records, which chances are that there are, and you need to look for a specific record, you can right click and go to view and then filter. So if we're, for example, looking for a computer name that we just looked at before, which is work-0002, you would basically do it under names start with, and then click OK. Now, this may not change. This right side here where you see things in here, this may not change because there are tons of different things in there. We can just right click and then refresh, and then it's going to find it like that. You see that? So why would you want to look this up to begin with? Let's say there are issues where you can't connect over the network. Sometimes you may have a duplicate record for the same host name. This can happen if this computer connected to a physical network and then later on connected to a Wi-Fi network, and the DNS is kind of confused to where am I going to forward this? Like if it has two entries for the same host name. So you can just right click and delete one of them. Now make sure you delete the one that has the oldest lease timestamp on it. So look at this timestamp here, and you can just delete the one that's the older one. Or you can just delete both of them, and it will come back automatically on its own next time the computer is refreshed, next time the DNS is flushed on the computer. So if I right click delete here, I can certainly do this here, and hopefully it works properly. Hopefully it works properly now. So we're going to work computer here, the one we just deleted. We're logging into it. And so what we have to do here is do a flush DNS. We're going to type in ipconfig / flush DNS. So this would basically flush all the DNS records that are not they're set up locally. So at this point, the computer doesn't know that we've deleted the records. So if we do a flush DNS and do basically hit enter, it's going to flush this record and it's going to repopulate with the new record, new forwarding record on the server level and on the local level, so that way the network access to this computer is working again. All right. So if I refresh here, and it may take a bit, it may not show up now. It takes a bit, sometimes up to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for the new record to automatically populate in here, but eventually it will show up in here. So right now, remember we're filtering. So if I remove the filter, come on, I'm trying to remove the filter. Uncheck the filter. So this is what I need to do. Sorry. Refresh. It goes back to what we saw previously. Again, that computer is going to come up. I don't know why I said. Sorry, that's so weird. It will show up here eventually again once it gets time to catch up to the DNS server. So that's what that is. Reverse lookup zone is kind of the same thing, but just in reverse, right? We're looking at what the IP addresses are and what they are pointing to. And here are some old records of that. Here's an old record pointing to a computer that's called just work1, and here's the network printer one that was, added in there. And that's what this is. This is just in reverse, basically looking at what the IP address is pointing to, and it's reverse. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. The main thing to basically you be working on if you're just starting to work for a company you're looking for is looking if there are DNS issues with A records from when it comes to forwarding. So you would mostly be looking at the forward lookup zones for your domain specifically, or maybe other domains. I don't know. I hope this is easy to understand. I hope I didn't make this too complicated. Uh, but yeah, this is what it is. It's very useful to know when you're starting to do tech support for a company. And yeah, I hope you find it helpful. Let me know in the comments. And more videos to come. Again, the next one is going to be help desk, because we got 50 tickets, so that might be a marathon on that. I don't know. We'll see how I go about that. It just depends on how many people are interested, and yeah, it's going to dictate how we go about this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye bye.